He is a dynamic teacher, success coach, leadership consultant, and pastor. His broadcasts, excellent leadership, and success power can be viewed on satellite channels all over the world. He is the senior pastor of Daystar Christian Center, Lagos, Nigeria, with over 40,000 in attendance every Sunday. He founded the Daystar Leadership Academy, DLA, which is dedicated to raising a new generation of leaders who will serve as catalysts in the transformation of Africa and the world. As of 2018, over 38,900 people have graduated from the school. He holds a master's degree in leadership studies from the University of Exeter, UK, as well as a doctorate in strategic leadership, which he obtained from Regent University, Virginia, USA. He is married to Nike Adeyemi, who co-pastors with him and ministers healing to women and children through the Real Woman International and the Love Home Orphanage. They are blessed with 3 children. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the visionary and convener of the Excellence in Leadership Conference and our first speaker, Dr. Sam Adeyemi.
Let's start from somewhere, right? With thousands of leaders, in fact, tens of thousands of leaders attending a conference. The one requirement for us to get anything meaningful out of the conference is humility, right? Humility. Because that's what makes it possible for us to learn. And humility is the key to greatness. So we'd ask for mutual respect and for us to be open to learning in the course of these 2 days. Expect to get 2 things: practical tools for changing your own thoughts and habits and ultimately your life. Practical tools. Leadership begins with self-leadership. Leadership begins with self-leadership and personal success. Secondly, expect to receive a new level of sophistication in influencing others to change their thoughts and habits and ultimately their lives. When we do that, we practically change the culture of a family, of an organization, and of a nation. I pray that these 2 days will be defining moments for every single one of us. Amen. That we will remember these 2 days for decades to come. Amen. That the foundation will be laid for new dimensions of impact in our lives. So let me lay a foundation this morning for the many insights we will be receiving in the course of this conference. There are many days in my life that I will never forget. And one of them just comes to mind this morning. So, Dr. Nick and I attended the conference in this city, like this. And this particular speaker just gave a short explanation on a verse from the book of Proverbs. A verse written by Solomon, the great wise king and leader. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 20. You may have heard me talk about this before. Proverbs 21, verse 20. Because on that day, it was read in the King James Version of the Bible. Now, if you listen to me often, you know I don't use King James Version. Because I believe that even if King James himself was alive, he will not be reading that Bible. Because the English is so antiquated. But today, permit me to read from the King James Version. Proverbs 21, verse 20. There is treasure to be desired and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up. So he said, if you spend everything that is coming into your account, you're a fool. I winced. I mean, it shook me up. Did I hear him right? He repeated it. If you spend everything that is coming into you, you are a fool. It had been a long time since someone called me a fool. And this was in the house of God. I shook my head. So I was thinking to myself, but what if what is coming in is not enough? Right? Yes. As if he had me. He said, I know some of you are saying the reason why you spend everything is because the money is not enough. He said, let me tell you, it is not because the money is not enough that you are spending everything. The fact that you are spending everything is proof that your wisdom pipe is blocked. Thank you. That was my reaction. At that point, I turned, so Dr. Nike was sitting on the row behind me, right, by the arrangement that day. I turned, I looked at her, I faced forward. When he made that last statement, it was as if somebody took a pipe and hit my head with it. He said, I'm not the one that said so. It's Solomon. It is the Bible. Said, So then he went ahead, gave some more explanation that I can't even remember the details anymore. My head was spinning. But he made his point. He supported it with practical examples, his own experience and their experience in their organization. You know what happened? When I got back to the office, the first thing I did was to just request for someone at the office to go to my bank. Go and get savings account forms for me. Honestly, I filled the forms quickly and opened a savings account. And then started right there and then. You know, I had my budget, how much I was going to spend, and then anything else that came, whatever was coming in, I was taking something out and taking it to the bank. And then at the end of the month, whatever was over budget, I took everything and threw them in the savings account. My shock was how much I saved. I was surprised. Let me give you figures, to put it in proper perspective. So my salary at that time was 30,000 naira a month. At the end of the first month, I had saved 100,000 naira. Right? Honestly, if I had not done that, I would not have known, that I was getting that much money. The second month, the surprising thing was that my income actually went up. And because I was saving all the extra, then the savings went up. The third month, my income went up again. So I was saying, what's going on here? What's going on here? Because whenever I have anything dramatic happen like that, I want to understand it, especially if it's positive, because I consider every experience in life to be like the eating of a fruit. Most times we eat the flesh, we throw the seed away. But if we kept the seed and cultivated it, it will grow into a tree and give us more of those fruits, right? So inside every experience is a principle that controls the experience. If we understand the principle, then we can recreate that experience over and over and over again. So I was trying to understand what's going on. What's going on? Then I discovered what was going on was inside. It wasn't only in my bank account, it was inside. It was the fact that until then, when I ran out of money, I ran out of money. And it affected my thinking and my emotions. I felt broke. I felt poor. But now, when I ran out of cash, And the thought of being broke was coming to me, and feeling broke was coming. Once I remembered the figure in the account, the thought of being broke just ran away, right? I killed it. It disappeared, shattered. The feeling of being broke shattered. I felt rich. I now discovered, that it was because there was no poverty in my thinking. That's why the money was coming. There was money in my mind. Anytime I was thinking about money, the figure in the account came to my mind, and you will always attract the material equivalent of your most dominant thoughts, okay? So this is what I'm trying to point out. I had something, it changed my thinking changed my action because I took action on it. And when I took that action consistently over time, it became a habit, right? And then put my life on autopilot. I don't have to actually think about it or try hard to save. It became a habit. It became a part of my life. I'll tell you another interesting dimension to it. The day I asked them to get savings account forms for me, I asked them to get for Daystar also. See, the way you are is the way you lead, right? And that's why I said leadership actually starts with self-leadership. So whatever happened to me immediately affected the organization. I asked them to open an account that was going to be purely for saving. And then we started saving. It was exactly the same experience. As the figure in the savings account increased, our income was also increasing. And since then, because we've done that consistently, this experience I'm describing to you is over 20 years. I attended that conference over 20 years ago. And because also we've done that consistently, not spending all the money that comes in our church, it's become a culture. Anyone employed into our finance department in the last 20 years met that culture, that every week when something comes in, something goes into savings, because it's actually a part of our budgeting process. When you change your thinking, you literally change your life. When you change your thinking, you literally change your life. And when you change the thinking of a group of people, you change the life of that group. It may be a family, it may be an organization, maybe a business, maybe a non-profit, and it could be a nation. When you change the thinking, that's where it starts from. Then you change everything. For an organization, we call it culture. Culture. And that culture puts an organization or nation on autopilot. Culture is formed as we encounter challenges. We rationalize, we think, we profile solutions, we test the solutions. And then whatever works, we apply it and we repeat it over and over and over and over and over. It becomes a part of our culture. The interesting thing is that after some time, we actually begin to do what works without even thinking. So thinking happens at two levels. So you have conscious thinking and you have unconscious thinking. The human brain is wired in an amazing way, such that when you do something repeatedly, after some time, it moves that thing that you're doing into the subconscious to allow your conscious mind to deal with fresh problems. Once something becomes routinous, the human brain moves it into that subconscious level to allow the brain to deal with fresh problems. It's amazing. So it's the same for an organization. You tested something, it gave you the results that you desired. You do it over and over and over again. Before you know it, for the people within the organization, how to do it moves into the subconscious so that we can deal with fresh problems. Culture, however, is complex, and it is ever-changing. It's not fixed. It's something you have to pay attention to every single day. Because as your thinking is changing, as your emotions are changing, they are having impact on your habits, having impact on your character, having impact, if it's the group, having impact on the way the group behaves, or should we say, the culture. That's why management guru Peter Drucker said, culture will eat your strategy for breakfast. However beautiful your strategy may be, the people implementing the strategy are the ones that will determine whether it will be successful or not. Am I right? How they feel per time, what they're thinking per time, what they're doing per time is actually what will determine whether your strategy will work or not. It is people that bring strategy to life. At a personal level, it is you that will bring your plans to life. So as leaders, we have a huge responsibility when it comes to shaping culture, just so that culture will be able to bring our goals and our strategies to life. Let me explain the formation of culture with the formation of personal habits. So you face challenges, you rationalize, you test the solutions. Then I went to take my seat. And that day, I wasn't supposed to be on that flight, so somehow, I couldn't get a seat in the business class. I was in the economy class. And he was in business class, and he stood up and came to meet me where I sat. He said, "Sir, I need you to stand up and to go and take my seat. I'll take yours." I said, "Thank you. I'm okay here." He said, "Sir, I insist." I said, "I'm fine. Thank you. I appreciate it." He said, "Sir, Gio did not teach us like that. I insist." Then I told him something, which is what made me to remember just now. I said, "You know what? The moment I sat down here, this gentleman sitting next to me said, 'Lord, I thank you.'" I said, "So you understand what I mean?" He said, "I'm fine, sir. That's okay." Don't undo somebody's answer to prayer, right? Anyway, so here I was sitting next to Pastor Adeyemi. So as soon as I sat down, I greeted him. And I said, "Sir, will it be okay for me to ask you questions on this flight?" He said, "What would I say to you now? Which excuse would I give you? Is it that I have an appointment? Or that I have a meeting?" I said, "Good. Thank you, sir." That's fine. So I left it until the plane was in the air. Allowed him until he was free. I said, "Sir, just one question, sir. Just one question. What is the role of the church in the transformation of Nigeria? What is the role of Christians?" He said, "Let us just pray that God will give us more righteous people." I thought that was a vague answer, spiritual. But he explained it. He said, "Let me ask you a question. If you had a group of armed robbers and they had the opportunity to elect their leader, would they elect a policeman?" What? And I was writing everything he was saying. What a profound question. And later, I would meet the same concept during my doctoral program in strategic leadership. It is called prototypicality. When a group has the opportunity of choosing its leader, it will choose the person that best approximates the ideal member of that group. It's amazing. It's a principle. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. At the end of the day, the group will choose the person that best approximates. So, whoa. So, and I promise you, this happens at an unconscious level. It happens at it's more about the subconscious than it is about the conscious. So I've then played different scenarios with that equation. Okay, fine. So if I was the policeman and somehow I found myself as the leader of the group, what would I do? One of two things would happen. To remain as leader of that group, I would have to become an armed robber. Or else they would either kill me or take me out. Or the group would have to become like me. That process of changing people, leading people through transformation, that is what leadership is about. And because it is difficult, that's why many leaders avoid it. They just give themselves the excuse, you know what, I'm not the one that created the problem, especially at the national level. I am not the one that created the problem, because the moment you start, I promise you, I have friends in government, good people that mean well. Their greatest challenge is mindset. And it starts from the people closest to them. I've said it before. A former governor here in Nigeria, said to me, and when I visited him, he was actually still in office as governor. He said, Brother Sam, my problem is not with projects. My problem is not with projects. I get competent contractors. They deliver, okay? I insist, and they deliver my project. He said, my biggest problem is people's mindset. Can you imagine? I heard that the people in my cabinet were somewhere discussing, and that they were telling themselves, they were joking, and they said, Governor, come and solve vision. The governor will just be saying vision. Is it vision we want to eat? Their interest was on the money. He said, these are people in my cabinet, the executive council of the state, not to talk of the citizens. You get what I'm saying? So as a leader, when you confront that, it is either you are able to shift their thinking, or, you get where I'm going. Right. So for the group, you will need to make the subconscious group thinking conscious. That's what I'm trying to do with my media interviews. The subconscious group thinking, make it conscious. I had that experience when I read the book titled Culture Matters many years ago. Culture Matters. Right? A compilation of presentations at a symposium at Harvard University was trying to establish the correlation or the connection between culture and development. It's amazing. Culture Matters, How Values Shape Human Progress, was edited by Lawrence Harrison and Samuel Huntington. I'll pick some of the things they identified, for example, about African culture, because I was trying to unpack my own thinking. They mentioned hierarchical distance. Right? This is based on research. In some parts of the world, the gap between the people that have power and those that don't have is narrow. In some other parts of the world, it's wide. Africa falls within that scope where it is wide. The powerful are very powerful, the powerless are powerless. Very powerless, let me put it like that. I remember the first time I would speak at the church in the U.S., my friend's church in Houston, Texas, 2 services. At the end of the first service, we were going to spend the break in his office. As we approached the door, he just helped me. I just loved the fact that he was sensitive to me. I'll never forget it. He just held me. He said, Pastor Sam, hold on. When we get to that door, those people will not get out of the way for us, okay? So we will have to wait our turn to get through that door. I will explain to you later. I love it that he was sensitive, culturally sensitive, because he is Nigerian American. He knew where I was coming from. It was my first time of speaking in the U.S. He knew that in Nigeria, as you approach the door, the pastor is coming. He wanted to deliver me from culture shock. Hierarchical distance. I wrote an article years ago, a few years back, for the World Economic Forum. I titled it, Africa Doesn't Need Charity, It Needs Good Leadership. I explained in the article that the structure we have in Africa, few people in the elite class use political power to corner most of the financial resources for themselves and those they love. Everybody has struggled. So I said, any aid you send from anywhere in the world, once it comes into that structure, the money you send to take care of poor people, sick people, most of it will be consumed there at the top. Only very little will get down. Other issues mentioned in the book, I don't have the time to go through them. But there's one other one I should mention, the high cost of irrationalism. Irrationalism, lack of use of the mind, or lack of value for the use of the mind. Reminds me of someone who told me he was watching a TV program one day and a pastor was preaching. A pastor, many years ago. It was at a period when we were having hair crashes in Nigeria. And there had just been one. And he was warning, he was preaching in one of our local languages, and he was warning his church members to be careful about flying in aircraft. Then he described to them how the aircraft is manufactured. He said that the white man forms the shape of the body. Then he takes the power of witchcraft. Agbara Aje. He takes the power of witchcraft and puts it, that it is the power of witchcraft that it uses to fly. I asked the person, are you sure of what you are saying? Did somebody tell you? He says, I watched the program on TV myself. I said, Jesus. The cost of irrationalism. Right? That's why we believe in magic. Fantastic ideas. What we don't understand, we develop fantastic explanations for them. So we need to unpack those. And I'm asking those of us here today, right, to become those ones that will begin to uncover what's in the subconscious and to begin to present better ideas and to encourage a shift in our thinking. Is that okay? We can start from this conference. So as we go on, you will hear from our speakers personal stories of people who faced challenges in a trying environment like this. Some young people may think, oh, things have never been this bad. Sorry. It's just been a steady decline. Things have been challenging. You actually even have tools now that some of us had no idea about, because some of the tools you have now did not even exist 25 years ago. Right? Good. So it is the thinking you should rather focus on. Unpack the subconscious thinking. Let's tweak it. Stop focusing on the negative. Focus on the positive. Stop seeing problems. See opportunities. Travel in the opposite direction, because that is what the people that change culture do, ultimately, and improve your influence skills. So listen to the stories, and the principles that will be shared. And I sincerely believe that each of us will be going home with something. And when we get back, we will tweak something, and the results will begin to change for us. So in the early years of Daystar, many years back, we had just moved into a new facility. It was our former facility. And one day they reported to me someone had stolen the equipment inside the water closet. So we deliberated on it at the management meeting. Some suggested we should respond the way we normally do in Nigeria. that we should, is it burglar proof? We call it, yes. Iron, right? We should use iron to cover the water closet, right? Bury the iron, cement it into the wall. I said, how long will we do that for? Look at our vision, right? We're to raise leaders here. I said, you see, if it doesn't work here, just forget about the country. When this is even the house of God. So I said, wait. So I spoke to the whole church. I appealed to their conscience, to the better side of them, and told them this country needs to change. And we can't start failing from here. If it doesn't work here, the country is doomed. We are better than that. Okay? I said, God is here to change your life. You can't start failing from here. Now, stealing things from God's house. And then, of course, I asked everybody to be their brother's keeper. So anytime you go into the bathroom, the first thing you should do is check if the equipment is still there, so that if it is missing, you quickly raise alarm, so that we lock the gate before everybody leaves. I'm glad to tell you it stopped. It stopped. Dr. Mike Murdoch says, inside every man is a king and a fool. The one that you speak to is the one that will respond to you. Let us speak to the kings and queens in us. The better side of us will find expression. Welcome to ELC 2023.